Hard Talk is on the road in Tunisia, where the Arab revolt against dictatorship began a little more than 2 years ago. And ever since then, this country has been under intense scrutiny. Could it set an example in terms of freedom and democracy for the rest of the Arab world to follow? Well, that is a massive challenge. And right now, it's a challenge which Tunisia is struggling to meet. Tunisia in late winter. The skies as sullen as the mood of this country's 10 million people. The road through Tunisia's rural heartland leads to the birthplace of the Jasmine Revolution. But the heady scent of that Arab Spring disappeared long ago. The neglected, windswept town of Sidi Bouzid. Here, 27 months ago, the young fruit seller Mohamed Bouazizi burned himself to death in a shocking protest against poverty and the petty tyranny of the Ben Ali regime. Bouazizi's flame ignited a revolution. In Siri Izzedine still peddles fruit just meters from where his friend took his own life. Do you think things have changed in the last 2 years?
الوضع من بعد الثورة ما تبدل حتى شيء، بالعكس أزمت أكثر وزادت صعدت أكثر الأمور وما عارفين لا من بعد الثورة التو ما تغير شيء، اللي قامت عليها الثورة على الخدمة عن الحرية عن حاجات ما تغير حتى شيء.
When you say that nothing has changed, that cannot be true because, you know, you have a democracy now, you have the right to vote, you have a government which says it's committed to delivering jobs and opportunities for the people.
أنا بالنسبة للوعود هذه وعود شفتها معناتها سمعناها كان بالوسائل الإعلان، سمعناها كان باش نعملوكم هي مصلحة للمصلحة اللي هي للرئاسة لحاجات أخرى باش نعملوكم باش نوصلوا الحل معاكم وصلوا لحاجة هي الكل تجري على مستوى الكراسي نتاعهم باش يوصلوا للمراكز نتاعهم، وصلت للمراكز نتاعهم وما شفنا حتى شيء. الوعود اللي قالوها لنا اللي سمعناها منهم على المباشر وعلى غير المباشر ما شفنا منهم حتى شيء. عن التشغيل ما ثمش، الاقتصاد ما شفناش، الامن ما شفناش. شنو شفنا؟ شفنا حتى شيء، ما شفنا شيء من اللي قالوه الولا وجدد هذا.
Unemployment hangs over Sidi Bouzid like a curse. It's souring the spirit of the revolution. On a weekday afternoon, football, not work, keeps these young men off the streets. Most have never had a job.
Combien a un travail, un job?
Non, pas de travail. La plupart c'est chômeur.
Pas de travail pour tous les gens ici? C'est impossible de trouver travail ici? Pourquoi?
C'est impossible.
Pourquoi? Pourquoi? Qu'est-ce que c'est la raison?
C'est comme ça.
Pour tout?
Pour tout. l'arجو ما ثمش فابل ما عندنا شيء كان ربي يخلق العباد الكل ما يقدر صاحبي غنكور نجري عارف نجري معايا برا صور من غالي امشي خويا خلينا نلعب نمشي.
Oh, okay, he wants to play.
This lost generation
Okay, well, I think we got the message.
has football and little else. Here in post-revolutionary Sidi Bouzid, it's conservative Islam that has grabbed the political initiative. Harabi Abdul Wahab is a sports teacher who spends his spare time running community projects for a Muslim charity sympathetic to a brand of fundamentalist Salafi Islam. They're delivering much-needed supplies to single mother of three, Munira Omri. They built her one-room house, and they provide medicine for her disabled son. This is community outreach in the name of God. Now, we've just seen you delivering charity to some of the poor people in this town. But many of the things you do seem to me to be the job of the government.
والله احنا اكيد الحكومه والدوله ممكن تقوم عندها دور تقوم به، لكن احنا كجمعيات خيريه موجوده في البلاد هذه لازمها تقوم بنشاط، ونشاطها لازم يكون موجه للفئات اللي هي محتاجه الدعم. الفئات هذه تتوزع بين الايتام اللي موجودين في المدارس هذه ولا الايتام في الاحياء الشعبيه او الفقراء اللي في المدارس اللي هم محتاجين شكون يساعدهم، فهمتني؟ فالدوله اكيد عندها مجالات اخرى تعاون فيها، لكن احنا حبينا باش نوصلوا رساله للناس اللي موجودين غادي، للصغيرات الموجودين غادي، انه فما شكون في المجتمع يفكر فيهم، فما شكون في المجتمع فهمتني متعاطفوا معاهم، فهمتني؟ ما همش محصورين في المدرسه اللي مجرد انه الدوله هي لا، احنا حبينا نحسسوهم انه احنا رانا قراب منهم وانهم هم جزء من المجتمع نتاعنا.
Your motivation is driven by your religion.
كعامل اساسي هو ديني، وهذا شيء اساسي واكيد، فهمتني؟ انه احنا لكن مش يعني الفئه المستهدفه، فهمتني؟ أي فئة محتاجة مساعدة بغض النظر على دينها احنا نساعدوها، فهمني؟ لكن احنا كمنطلق ديننا يدعونا باش نعاون الناس الكل المحتاج الكل.
You say you help everybody irrespective of religion, but the fact is you know that there are many people in this country today who are deeply suspicious of what they see as the growing power of the Salafi fundamentalist Islamic trend in Tunisia. Do you understand the suspicion that people have?
والله أنا مراش فما خوف كبير من الجماعات هذه، لأنه الخوف مبالغ فيه، والخوف يعني إعلاميا ماخذ أكثر من حجمه، فهمتني؟ الجماعات هذه فيها ناس قاعدة تقدم في خدمات للمجتمع.
Right. Not all Sidi Bouzid's Islamists are prepared to talk. We found a group of young men, hardline Salafists, outside this town centre mosque. They stopped us filming. The sense of disappointment in Sidi Bouzid is very deep, and there are also increasing signs of a polarised society. I just met a group of bearded young men, some of them wearing military fatigues outside the mosque right there. They were hardline Islamists, Salafists, and they didn't want to talk to me. In fact, they said they would break our cameras if we didn't get out of town now. The rise of Islamist militancy in Tunisia threatens to destabilize the revolution. Last September, Salafi radicals were blamed for an attack on the US embassy in Tunis. And many Tunisians were outraged when the outspoken leftist politician and human rights campaigner Chokri Belaid was assassinated in early February. Again, Salafi militants got the blame. The mourners at Belaid's funeral accused Tunisia's ruling party, the self-styled moderate Islamist movement, Ennahda, of complicity in his death. The Islamist movement, militant and moderate, stands accused of trying to intimidate its opponents. Revolutionary unity has given way to bitter recrimination. At the center of Tunisia's political storm, this young woman, Ulfa Riahi, a secular leftist journalist and blogger. She published allegations of corruption against Tunisia's former foreign minister, who happens to be the son-in-law of Islamist leader Rashid Ghannouchi. Her story, linking post-revolutionary ministers to the kind of sleaze seen in the Ben Ali era, has further polarized Tunisia.
It's all about power, you know. I think people in power especially in countries where democracy is not an institution. The fighting against corruption and for good governance, for transparency is the job of everyone.
As an investigative journalist and somebody who is a loud critic of the current ruling party, the Ennahda party, seems to me at least you are enjoying a freedom to say what you want, to be as critical as you want to be.
I had the freedom to say it, but since I say it, my life is a nightmare. So.
In what way a nightmare?
Because I'm undergoing a very, very violent and aggressive campaign, luncheon and defamation campaign on the social networks and on some newspapers, some TV, Islamist one. I have some really serious threats.
What kind of threats?
I really don't like to talk about it on the media and on TV because.
But I have to push you on this. I mean, we have seen in the recent past what happened to Shukri Belaid, a leading human rights campaigner, an opposition politician. He ended up assassinated.
Yes, and then.
Are you suggesting there are threats to your life?
Yes, I think so, and. I'm not really afraid, and sometimes I say maybe they're just trying to put pressure on me, so I will stop and leave the case and the affair. But in the other side, I say that if everyone get afraid and give up, we will never have the Tunisia that we dreamed of 2 years ago.
How far are you prepared to go in this fight?
Till death, you know. I'm ready to die for this, you know. I'm really ready to die for this.
Have you lost your faith in this idea that political Islam and secular politics in Tunisia can successfully live together?
I used to think that it was possible. But today I'm convinced that mixing this religion and politics will never work.
Ulfa Riahi, thank you very much for being on Hard Talk.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Ulfa. Tunisia has avoided the chaos that has enveloped other Arab uprisings. In the capital, Tunis, services work, government functions. The trains run on time. But that doesn't mean the country is on track towards harmony and prosperity. Tunisia doesn't have big reserves of oil and gas, so if it is to thrive, then it needs to be seen as safe, stable, and open to outside investment, and that's particularly true in the vital tourist industry. Right now, I'm heading to one of the country's biggest Mediterranean resorts, Hammamet, to check out how tourism has been faring since the revolution. The Royale is a 5-star luxury hotel that lacks for nothing except guests. Occupancy is currently below 10%. Normally, in the low season, it would be closer to 40%, but news of strikes, protests, and the Belaid assassination have led to mass cancellations. And the prospects for summer are decidedly gloomy. Up to a quarter of Tunisia's 10 million people are directly or indirectly dependent on tourism. The workforce that services Hammamet's hotels lives far from the 5-star luxury, and right now they're close to despair. Osama Ben Yedder is a professional tour guide, but for over a year now he hasn't had a tour to guide. First question for you is, how do you manage your personal economic circumstances? You must be struggling.
Actually, we're surviving. We're surviving. With all the means we have available, but family support is important as well.
Let me ask you this. When the revolution happened, what was your own personal feeling about the revolution?
Actually, we expected so much, we were probably too optimistic. We probably put the bar so high. In Tunisia, we are North African people, we are very moderate, but still, when we see real democracies in the Occident, freedom of speech, freedom of political activity, freedom of press, I mean, we dreamt, all of us, that one day in Tunisia, we would see those rights, those freedoms being, enjoyed by every citizen.
So you felt your dreams were coming true, in a way.
For a time, yes.
And now that you see the economic reality that has come with the post-revolutionary period, how do you feel now?
All that euphoria, all that happiness, it disappeared. Because our daily life is very difficult now. And we have really to survive.
It strikes me as I travel around Tunisia, there is a particular problem for young people today. Because of the economic crisis, it is very hard for very well qualified young people, highly educated young people, to get jobs. Do you see that in your own circle of friends, your own life?
For sure. You just need to stroll around cities and towns to see cafes in the middle of the day. Full with youngsters. You will understand that joblessness is hitting Tunisia, everywhere.
You, I know, have a master's degree in applied linguistics.
Yeah.
You know, people watching this will think, this guy, he's got a lot of talent, he's got a lot of potential. If you cannot explore and develop your own potential in Tunisia, are you going to leave? What are you going to do?
Actually, the idea is starting to gain ground on my psyche, let's say. I'm thinking of that. If an opportunity is offered to me somewhere else, I will go and try somewhere else.
Which is a very sad prospect for this country, if the bright young people just get out.
That would be a tragedy. That would be a tragedy. If Tunisian talents all flee Tunisia and go abroad.
Osama Ben Yedder, thank you very much for being on HARDtalk.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Osama, and drink your tea while it's hot. Get warm.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Tunisians still take enormous pride in their role as leaders of the Arab revolt against tyranny. But revolutions aren't easy. In Tunis, the euphoria is long gone. What's needed now is patience and unity, but both are in short supply. Tunisia's president symbolizes the problem.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président.
A secular human rights campaigner who's the figurehead of a government led by Islamists. He sees himself as a bridge builder.
How are you? Well,
but the strain is showing.
President Monsef Marzouki, welcome to HARDtalk. Many Tunisians seem to be losing faith in their revolution. Are you?
Oh no, not at all. But I can confess that I didn't expect the transition to be so complex and so difficult, I'm discovering day after day that revolution is an easy moment, but the aftermath is much more complex and much more difficult. And I hope that, I'm quite sure that we're doing quite well when you compare to other countries, and that Tunisians have to be a little bit more patient, and then we see the difference.
But would you accept, and I say this based on evidence from traveling up and down the country, would you accept that there is a lot of evidence of increasing polarization, deep polarization within Tunisian society?
What we are trying now, what's trying hard to do is to prevent this bipolarization. And I hope that because we have, mature and responsible political parties, that we can avoid this confrontation, because it could lead to a civil war, and this would be horrible for Tunisia.
Could lead to a civil war?
Let's say that it could lead to troubles. Not exactly to a civil war, because we don't have the minority you have in Syria or in Egypt, but I can say that we can have a lot of troubles.
a lot of troubles, and I guess you base that to a certain extent on the shocking assassination
Yes.
of Shukri Belaid.
Yes.
What was your reaction when you heard that this man, who was a human rights campaigner and a political activist, had been gunned down outside his own home?
I was shocked because I knew him, because he was a human being for me and a good friend. But I was shocked and afraid also for what
it might produce.
Yes, might produce. And I really was afraid of having riots and more deaths and so forth.
Let me just tell you what I found in Sidi Bouzid just the other day, which surprised me. I found young men, some of them wearing sort of military-style fatigues, bearded young men, clearly hardline Islamists. I would guess they were Salafists, who said to me, we are against democracy, we believe in jihad, we are not interested in talking to you, a Westerner, we have nothing to do with you, we want no contact with you. And they gave me the impression of a group within this society who are determined to do whatever it takes to impose their will. What should be done with them?
I discovered myself that this phenomenon is much more complex and was more dangerous than I thought before. And
you think they've been underestimated?
Yes, of course. We surely did. And now we are discovering that it's a problem, but once again, it's not that dangerous.
Well, if you believe they killed Shukri Belaid, it's pretty dangerous.
Of course, but once again, I still believe that we have, in this country, it's a tiny minority.
So how many of them do you believe there are of this really strong Salafi persuasion?
Some 200 or 300.
How do you believe the problem, as you put it, should be dealt with?
Surely not the way that Ben Ali dealt with the problem of Islamists, only by repression, only by police and so forth. We have to tackle the problems from all the many sides, because those guys, it's a lack of education, it's a poverty, it's being despised and forgotten from the state and so forth. So we have to tackle the problems socially, economically, politically. Also, we have to ask, the religious leaders also to talk to this young man and to tell them that's probably they are on the wrong path.
In the very place where the revolution began, I spoke to shopkeepers and stallholders, not unlike Mohammed Bouazizi, the man who burned himself alive and kicked off this revolution in a sense. I spoke to them and they said, in the last 2 years, our lives haven't improved. If anything, they have got worse. Do you understand them?
Yes, of course. And my answer is always the same. I say, look, before the revolution, you are not citizens, Now we are citizens, now we are free, now we have all the political freedom that...
But you can't be truly free if you don't have a job.
Yes,
and 40% of young Tunisians do not have a job.
Yes. First of all, we have also to build the political system, because this country, was destroyed by corruption, and corruption was also linked to the political system. So first of all, we have to set up the political system, the democratic system. That takes time. So you cannot expect Tunisia, who is just getting from hard dictatorship, 50 years of corruption, of destroying the society and the state, to resolve the whole problem in 2 years.
Mr. President, thank you very much for being on Hard Talk.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Little more than 2 years ago, Tunisia was a beacon to Arabs seeking a path away from dictatorship. The revolutionary light has since dimmed. Tunisians must ensure it is not extinguished.